been a bit of a slow news week this week, so let's talk Zelda. Hi guys, welcome to PMyth Gaming. Breath of the Wild is getting a sequel next year. At least I hope it's next year. And so I've been pondering a few things that I'd like to see in that game that would help it surpass the lofty heights of the first one. I've essentially narrowed it down to about 3 things, so let's go through them. Number 1, proper dungeons. I feel like this is at the top of a lot of people's lists. The shrines were awesome in the first game, and I'd love to see some of the puzzles form part of a larger cohesive dungeon. The divine beasts were fairly entertaining, but they didn't hold quite the same mystery and gravitas that the dungeons have in past games. When we first learned that Breath of the Wild was going to be this expansive open world game, I got really excited at the prospect of just stumbling across a dungeon. You know, imagine trekking through Farron Woods and finding the Forest Temple, or exploring Gerudo Desert and just stumbling across this massive temple full of mysteries and secrets to unearth. I've got to admit, I was a little bit disappointed that that was missing from the experience in the end. Not that there were many disappointments with that game, admittedly. From the closing shot of the sequel reveal trailer, it looks like we could well be returning to the very same Hyrule we explored in the first game. If that's the case, then Nintendo are going to have to come up with some new ways to keep us interested. Depositing, say, a dozen dungeons into that Hyrule that we would have to go and hunt down would make exploring that world a second time worthwhile. But if they are going to do that, then they're going to have to give us some incentive to go hunting, which leads me on to my second request. A proper story. Nah, I'm perhaps being a little bit unfair here. Breath of the Wild actually had a pretty sweet narrative. The only problem was you had to go digging for it. If you track down all of the memories and watch them back in order before fighting Ganon, as I did, you do get a real sense of the grandeur of the battle you're about to embark on and how it ties into the game's narrative. Likewise, hunting around Hyrule Castle and being a nosy little git added some greater context to proceedings too, with Zelda and the King's Diaries fleshing out those characters further. What I mean by this is I want the game to be slightly more plot driven than the first one, with a narrative that spurs the player on through the adventure. I can understand why the first game took the approach that it did. It needed to be sort of open-ended, so you could have that go anywhere, do anything at any time you like structure. But if we are indeed returning to the same Hyrule, then I'm okay with the game being a little bit more linear if there's going to be a killer story driving it. Given the fairly strong hint of Ganondorf in the trailer, not to mention the fact that Link presumably is no longer suffering with amnesia, we could well end up getting a more traditional Zelda narrative to propel us through the game. I'm all for this, and it's the reason I fell in love with the series in the first place. Ocarina's lore and world building is the foundation of my love for Zelda. I powered through Twilight Princess because I was so eager to unravel its mysteries, and Skyward Sword, a game that's massively better than you remember by the way, was so compelling because it was so cinematic, with a powerful relationship between Link and Zelda really driving that origin tale. A compelling story that's front and centre of this second game could send us all over Hyrule hunting down new Sheikah secrets and new mysteries that weren't there the first time around. Populating that world with new characters and new obstacles will help keep it fresh. Which leads me neatly onto my third and final request. More enemies. Breath of the Wild certainly had some formidable foes, and there wasn't exactly a shortage of baddies to fight. You had Bokoblins, Lizalfos and Guardians, Moblins and Lynels and Keese, oh my. But there was still a plethora of Zelda baddies that didn't make the cut. I really hope Nintendo digs into its bag of tricks and gives us even more terrors to tackle the second time around. Give me intense sword fights with Stalfos, give me V-Deads and Gibdos to fight in the dark. Throw me into a chamber with an iron knuckle or bubbles to shoot out of the sky. I want to tackle Dodongos, Poes, Tektites and Wolfos. Give me Like-Likes that steal my weapons. How they didn't make it into the first game I'll never know, it just seems obvious. By and large, Breath of the Wild relied on palette swaps to mix up the enemies as you move through the game and give you additional challenges. But to be honest, Breath of the Wild was a lot shorter in scope in terms of enemy variety than previous games in the series. Hopefully Nintendo can expand that in the second game and reintroduce some of the characters that we've grown to love to hack to pieces in previous games in the series. No Freezards though, they drive me balmy. So there you go, those are my top 3 picks for things that I would like to see in Breath of the Wild 2. But what about you, dear viewer? What kind of things are you hoping to see? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks very much for watching everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, there is loads more you can check out, such as this one. And if you like that, you can always subscribe to so you never miss another episode. This show goes out every Friday, but there's tons of other stuff here on the Nintendo Village for you to enjoy. And be sure to check out thenintendovillage.com for news, reviews, features, podcasts, and all that cool stuff. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you all next week.